Hello. Today is a glorious day because it's been so nice out. It's so nice out, finally. In the Maritimes, we get some positive weather, some pluses. Not double digits. Double digits tomorrow. Tomorrow, we get the double digits. But tomorrow is Magic Mushroom Monday. Yeah! I think I might video the whole thing. My friend won't know. I'm just going to put it on. We'll see if she figures it out. So I grounded up the mushrooms into a fine powder substance, which is going to go into my my tea ball with some vanilla chai tea. I'm thinking we're going to be partaking in that at about 10 a.m. tomorrow. Depends on when my friend gets here, but it's going to be interesting. I went on a hike today to what is called the Bluff in Sussex, New Brunswick. You should look it up. The Bluff, B-L-U-F-F. That's in Sussex Corner, which is right next to Sussex. It's all pretty much the same thing, but... Anyway, went up there with my good friends Cynthia and Sandra. I try to hang out with the ladies quite a bit. I tend to try and bring them together because individually I know... Sorry, that vape makes me cough. Individually I know about their stories, like what each one of them is going through and all that sort of stuff. But then when they get together, for me, I just sit quietly and listen. Or not listen because I've heard the stories before, but they get together and they share amongst themselves things that I already know, so I don't really need to pay that much attention, nor do I feel like I need to keep the conversation going by doing all the talking, which I've been known to do. I just tend to, where there's silence, I fill it. But today on our hike, there was lots of silences and stuff. It was quite fine. It was all fine. Yeah. Spring is here. Spring has sprung. The grass, not quite riz. I don't need to wonder where the birdies is because I hear them all the time. Today we've had, the cardinals are out and doing their thing. A lot more of them this year than what I normally hear. Oh, you see this little mark right here? Walked into a branch today. Thank God it was up there and not like in my eye, although I did have my sunglasses on, so that wasn't going to happen necessarily. But it was a good day. I did some walking and some talking and some visiting, and I didn't do any work. No work today. And tomorrow, more of the same, not doing any work, because as I said earlier, it's Magic Mushroom Monday. It should be interesting. So in a week's time, my son will be here in my house living. Today, he messaged me from his girlfriend's house to tell me that her dad was yelling shit at him and saying a bunch of stuff to him that isn't very good. And, the last time he sent me a note saying that that's what was happening, it turned out that it was partially his fault because he brought a friend over. The last time, he brought a friend over without asking if it was okay during the COVID to bring this random friend over when he looked after his baby. The thing that everybody needs to remember on that end is that, one, it's Fucktard Dave's house. One. Why Fucktard Dave gets himself all bent out of shape when my son is late to look after his daughter is beyond me, because Dave's fucking there anyway. And Carter knows that, and that's probably why he's late, is because Dave's fucking there anyway. So who cares if he gets there on time or not? But apparently Dave cares. If they would just sit down and have a conversation that goes something like this. Hey, Dave. Hey, Carter. How things going today? Well, Carter, I'm glad you asked. Do you mind if you sit down for a moment? I'd like to speak to you about something that's been troubling me lately. Oh, yeah, Dave? What would that be? Well, Carter, sometimes when Cassidy and her mother go out and you're scheduled to come and work for Halo, I've been noticing that you tend to show up a little bit late. And I'm wondering why that is. There's no particular reason, Dave. I guess I just presume that, or assume that you're here anyway, and there's really no rush in me coming over or to be punctual because nobody told me that you were going anywhere, so I just assume that you're here. Well, that's unfortunate, Carter, that nobody's informing you of such things. Perhaps I should start telling you what my schedule is also, and then we can make sure that everybody shows up on time to do the things that they're doing. Because I'll tell you what ends up happening is that when Cassidy and Denise are out and they think that you're coming at 4, I make plans to go out at 4, but then you don't show up until 4:30, and now my plans are screwed, and then I'm mad. Oh, well, I'm really sorry, Dave. I had no idea that you were making plans around this supposed time that I was coming to look after my daughter. I'll make sure that the next time, and maybe here's my number, if you want to give me a text and give me a heads up and just let me know that you have plans. I mean, I'm 21 and I'm not that reliable, and this is my first kick at the can with being a dad, and seeing as my family doesn't live with me and lives at somebody else's house, it's very difficult for me to choreograph my time and their time and everybody else's time if I don't know what anybody's doing. So I think communication is key. What do you think, Dave? Yes, Carter, I'll have to apologize to you now for this past year not really even looking you in the eye or even being cordial to your mother and father when they come around. I know your mother only had 10 days here last year when Halo was born, and I feel very regretful that I did not address her personally or take an interest in anything that she had going on, so that I would get some insight into who you are, seeing as you're going to be in my life until I'm dead. That's a good point, Dave. I never really looked at it like that, but you know what? We are now in each other's lives until one of us dies. And I really hope it's you before me. Not that I want you to die, but I'm younger than you, so you should go before me. What do you say? I guarantee, or I can try and promise you that I'll live longer than you. At this juncture, Carter, seeing as I'm only in my 50s, I don't really think too much about that, specifically my pending death. But you know what? I think that we should work together. We should work together to try and make the women in our lives a little happier and maybe a little bit more appreciated. And now, seeing as you've assisted my daughter in bringing your own daughter into the world, let's try and set a better example than we have been thus far, and try and be some stand-up men. Because up until this point, you, me, and your father, Mike, have just been fucking this thing right in the ass since it happened. Yeah, I know, Dave. You're probably right. The women seem to be on the right or the same page as one another, and we seem to be the ones that are causing all the drama in this situation. Perhaps we should do what my mother suggested and dig our heads out of our ass, because sunlight is so much better for your vision than just a big pile of shit. Wouldn't you agree? Yes, Carter. I couldn't have said it better myself. You know, I think I'll stop being Dickhead-Dave, and I'll be more like my wife Denise, because I've been told that your mother and father refer to her as D-Nice, and maybe I'd like to be called Delightful Dave. Well, you can strive for that all you possibly can, Dave. I'm just trying to maintain my own sort of created lifestyle and to get away with doing as minimal amount of work as possible. But seeing as I'm going back to New Brunswick, my mother's not going to put up with any bullshit from me because she's pretty much had it with every other human being on the planet that has penis and balls. Like, she fucking hates those guys, and now I just happen to be one of them. So she's going to be giving me some big lessons on women and what they want me to do. Because really, I have resigned to the fact that unless the women are happy, there's no point. There's no chance in me ever being happy if the women in my life aren't happy. So now I've got 4, 5, 6, 7 potential women that it is my duty to try and make happy. Which is far more women, I think, than what you have, Dave. Because I've got your wife and your daughter and the granddaughter. Then I've got my mom and her sister, and then my cousin. That's 7. So, oh, and then my own daughter. That's 8. Did I do that right? Your wife, your daughter, granddaughter. No, I counted her already. So I got 7. I'll write you a letter and let you know how I make out. So that's it. That's the conversation that should go on between the two fucktards. And if Mike wants to show up for the dealio, then he should do the same. Because at the end of the day, I don't know about you fellas, but I do my own laundry. And if I had a shit stain in my underwear, I scrub that shit out myself. And you guys, any of you that live with a woman, if you have shit stains in your underwear, she's going to do you a solid and scrub them out, or she's just going to throw them away. Oh, we got some sightseers. Look at them go. Oh, there they go. Look at. They're looking. They're like, oh yeah, they're putting the roof on that. That looks awesome. Look at those posts. Pressure treated, and they're brown, and it matches the orange. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I wonder what it's going to be. Is somebody going to move there? What's going to happen? Now, I'm just letting you know, if I didn't tell you the story before. The house next door, I bought it. $8,700. I'm not going to lie to you. And it was in various states of disrepair, but I'm fixing it. And turning it into my shop / living space. And the house was built in 1876. And it used to be one street over, next to the little store that's there. And I think it was a residence. I'm not quite sure. But then one day, a man had purchased the house and wanted to have it moved to this lot next door. Now, according to the son of the people who built this house, who have since passed, and the son lives down the road and he's in his 70s, according to him, the man who purchased the house and had the lot here wanted to move it across somebody else's property to avoid going on the main street and having to have the power lines lifted to fit the house under. So bringing it across the street and just across the yard would have been the easier route. But the man who owned the property in which that would have to come across didn't like the man who had purchased the house. I can't remember everybody's name. I think it was George Brown was the man who didn't like the guy who purchased the house. I think his last name might have been Trites. So in the middle of the night, Mr. Trites, if I have the names correctly, moved the house across Mr. Brown's property, unbeknownst to Mr. Brown. And there it has sat ever since. And so then it passed hands, and at one point it belonged to the In-N-Out boyfriend's grandparents. his mother's parents. No, his father's parents, because it was Doherty's. And his grandmother was a wet nurse, and they birthed babies in the house next door. Now, I don't know if they did that while it was there or over by the store, but our former premier of New Brunswick, Premier Frank McKenna, was born in that house. I got clarification from that from Frank McKenna's assistant, because Frank works for the TD Bank in Ontario now, I believe, and he has an assistant. And I contacted her because I actually thought that that was his family home and that he was born there, a natural birth in his family home, but that wasn't the case at all. It was a medical center. So when we've been renovating it, it used to have 6 rooms upstairs. Now, whether there was one that was a bathroom, I don't know when they would have had septic tanks or plumbing in this area. We have a sewer system now just for 83 people or 85 people. But back then, they probably had outhouses for quite some time before they had indoor plumbing and septic systems and all of that sort of thing. So it would have been 6 rooms upstairs, like hospital bed type rooms. And then on the main floor, probably had a reception. It's weird because when we opened up the ceiling just in the front door, there was a bunch of fire damage on the joists above where you walk in. They've all been since structurally repaired and supported. But at the time, whenever it happened, we are assuming in the 50s, because where the fire happened would have been lath and plaster would have been covering over that. And then they just strapped over the burned area and put a layer of drywall on. And then after that, they strapped some more and then put more drywall on after that. I think that's how it went. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it went. Anyway, I presumed that at the time that that fire happened, it was a commercial type building, like a medical center, because the fire didn't get very far. Only 2 of the floor joists were really, burnt. They were still there, but they had a lot of burn on them, and some floorboards from up. Now, there was a chimney after, when we took everything down, there was an old hole where a chimney had been, and so we just assumed it was chimney fire. But, they probably had regulations for fires, especially in places where there would have been a volunteer fire department. They would have had, planned escape routes. They would have had axes for breaking windows and doors and stuff like that in case of fire. They probably had fire extinguishers or some sort of pump system to put fire out, because if that fire had have gotten just even as big as it was in that front entryway, if they didn't have the proper things to look after it, because think of it, you would have to spray water upward, like up, because the ceilings were 9 feet tall. They would have had to spray upward, and I guess it could have started upstairs. It could have. It's hard to say. But either way, upstairs, downstairs, doesn't matter. They needed something right now to put that fire out, and they must have had it, because it didn't get very far. Now, back in those days, if you had a fire in your house, if you had, they probably had at least 2 to 3 wood-burning or coal-burning stoves over there, keeping the place warm, because Lord knows there was no insulation between the walls. If that was going on, they would have had to been prepared for a fire. And back in the day, like I said, if a fire broke out in a house that old due to their heating source, it usually burnt to the ground. It happens now. There's a couple houses around here that burnt to the ground. Their main source, they had a wood furnace or wood stove or something. And so the fact that that house is over there and still standing and quite structurally sound, even upstairs, like the top floor, it's got a big roof peak on it, and it's just attic up there, but it's solid. There's not an ounce of moisture or rot or bad lumber or anything. I'm going to put one of those pull down stairs things for the trapdoor. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to build a room up there that's going to hold storage because, I've got a business and that's going to be over there. And yeah, I got to decorate for all the seasons. I really hate doing that shit. But I'll put it on the top floor. That'll be easy enough. All kinds of room over there. And then plus I'm doing a big addition on the back. Currently there's it's about a 10 by 10 by 12 foot room addition, smack dab in the middle of the back of the house. And the previous owner used to spend most of his time in there because he hadn't renovated anything on the main floor. Excuse me. He had actually started upstairs first, and it's pretty much completely done. Yeah, the back, I need more workspace, so it's going to be the full width of the house, which is 30 feet, by another 15 probably. And then the upstairs is going to be where I live, and I'm getting a dormer built on the back end of the house. There's a nice one on the front that has a little window in it that looks out from a sitting area upstairs. So I'm going to put a dormer on the back end with a door, like a garden door that goes out onto a deck above this 30 by 15 addition. Oh, big plans, big plans. When I lived out in Saskatchewan, I had big plans. I used to stand in this open field that was adjacent to my house. It was 2 acres of grassland. That used to be a horse yard. And I used to walk my dog over there in the morning, and I would stand in this one spot at the back corner and look out over, like I could see the highway. I could see forever from that vantage point because it's prairies and it's flat. And I pictured myself, I was standing in the doorway of the building I wanted to build to house my dog boarding and grooming kennel. So I would just stand there in the grass and picture it. Picture that I'm standing in that doorway of the building that I wanted, which was a barn. I built this 2-story red barn. Then, then I subdivided the properties. Long story. Anyways, it was not zoned commercial. It was residential, and I had a discretionary use to use the property for the kennel. But I knew because I subdivided, and I was now living upstairs in the dog kennel. The second floor was big. It was all finished, like the big barn roof. The building was 30 by 40. So it had dormers, I guess, not dormers. It had, the roof came in a little bit. Anyways, the space upstairs wasn't 30 by 40. It was more like, I don't know, it's still pretty big. Anyway, so I moved up there with my my toddler son at the time. And what I would do is, instead of, standing in an open field with nothing in it and imagining that I had a 2-story barn, now I had the 2-story barn, but I needed a house. And I didn't know how I was going to get a house onto that property, and I knew the city would be hounding me to do it because it's zoned as a residential property, and I had 2 acres with a business on it. Now, I think I kind of jumped through or had a loophole because I was living upstairs in this kennel, but I knew that, I knew from living upstairs from a dog kennel that I didn't want to live there forever. Like, yeah, if I was deaf, sure. Anyway, so what ended up happening, I would stand upstairs in the kennel, which was directly above the front door of the kennel that, when the field was there, I just stand there and think I was in the front door. Well, now I'm the next story up, and I'd stand in that window and look out over this 2 acres of grassland that I owned, and I would picture a house out front closer to the road. I would see it there, I didn't know what it looked like, but I just imagined it there. I would just look at this flat piece of burnt grass, because summer times are hot there and everything just burned right up if it was too hot. I used to just picture a house being there. And then lo and behold, I was watching the ad channel one day, and there was an ad posted on the ad channel in Saskatchewan, like Moose Jaw, where I lived. Somebody had a house that needed to be moved. So this man and his wife had bought this house down in the valley in Moose Jaw, which was doomed to be, it would get flooded not every year, but if there was going to be flooding, that area would get flooded. So they deemed it an unlivable place. So if you owned a house down there and you decided that you were moving out of the area, oh, it's a dishwasher. The city would purchase the house from the owners. I don't know if it was fair market value or what, but it was some sort of dealio. And then the city would turn around and try and sell these places to be moved out of the area because you couldn't live down there. And so what ended up happening was this man and his wife, they bought the house, but then one of them had ill health, and they decided to stay where they were instead of moving this house somewhere. There was some things that they couldn't get sorted with regard to moving it and where to move it and all this other stuff. And my situation was perfect. So I ended up buying the house for $6,000. $6,000. Yeah, cheaper than the house next door, but this house is already planted there. I had to take it and move it. So that means I had to dig a hole and put a foundation in and get a water supply and a sewer and all of that sort of stuff. It was a big rigmarole. I bit off way more than I could chew, but at the end of the day, it got done. The next year, I moved into the house. The basement wasn't finished. It didn't even have a floor in it, just the cement walls. And I ended up putting a wood floor down, which was great, because I don't like cement. It's too hard. And then I finished the whole thing down there. It had a bathroom and a TV room and a bar, and it had my bedroom, and it had a bathroom, and a laundry room, my son's playroom. Like, it was great. It was a labor of love, though. And I'd lived on that property from 1997 to 2007. Not a long time. 10 years. In that 10 years, I lived in the main residence of a triplex. Then when I sold the triplex, I lived in the apartment on the main floor of the triplex because I owned the property next door that had the kennel on it. And then I decided I wasn't going to pay rent to these people, and also that I didn't want to be with my son's dad because he was an unreliable fucktard. So I kicked him out. I minorly renovated the upstairs of the kennel so that my son and I could live in it. He had his own room. I put a bathroom in. I had my sleeping area. Then there was a kitchen. I put a kitchen in and a living room. So it was quite fantastic. Wide open space. Just that periodically there was a bunch of dogs downstairs barking. It was okay. I lived there for a year, and over that, and it was that fall. That fall, I moved the house onto the property. Is that how it went? No, that couldn't have been it. I don't know what the timeline was. I know maybe I didn't live upstairs before the house was moved. Maybe I didn't move over until the house was moved. Because there was one whole year that I stood upstairs in the kennel, looked out the window, and there was a house sitting over there. It's just that I couldn't live in it yet. It had this dormer on it. No, not a dormer. Carport roof. Like the roof was a peaked roof like this. Then this side extended out, and there was a carport. So when the guys moved the house, they had to pretty much cut the carport off to move the house. And it was all jiggity-jaggedy. You know, it was all fuckety-fucked. Anyway, that's how it arrived, and it got put down in the foundation. And prior to that, somebody had smashed out a front window, so it was all boarded up. Inside had this. Ugh. It wasn't dirty, but it just smelled like abandoned house, you know. And then it had these carpets. In the living room was this two-tone blue plush carpet from the 70s. It even had textured wallpaper. It was like a velour textured textured wallpaper, blue on white, and with the carpet like that. And then the kitchen had carpet as well. The glued down low pile foam backs shit. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like a patterned brown. Brown there? No, that... I've lived in a couple different houses with that in it. No, that kitchen carpet was blue. It was kind of orangey carpet, same shit, in the bathroom. And my son's room had some god-awful thing in it, too. And then what ended up being my bedroom was pink and worn down. It was icky. So way too much work had to be done, and I didn't have any more money. What ended up happening when I did the changed the carpeting and the flooring in the kitchen and bathroom, like the whole thing, I redid the whole thing, and I bartered for services. One of my dog grooming and boarding clients, they had 2 dogs, and they also owned a flooring store. So I bartered. I had to work off the money that I'd spent at their store on flooring and carpet by grooming and boarding their dogs with no charge because I owed them a few $1,000s. That was okay, it worked out. It was good. Yeah, I had a lot of work done there, a lot of money. But, in 2007, when the market was hot and I had gotten into real estate, conveniently enough, I listed the whole place and ended up selling it and didn't have to pay, I just had to pay one side of the commission on it to the guy who brought me I was working in a real estate office and a friend of mine that worked in the office listed my house for me. And then a realtor from a different office found the buyer. So the commission was his. He got half of the commission because, of course, my friend denied getting the first half because he was my friend. So, yeah. And then when that place sold, oh my God, I had done so much work. It was a bare bones 2 acres with nothing on it when I first had it. And then it was a going concern business with a house on it after I had it. So when it was all said and done, I walked away with, after everything, the mortgage was paid off and stuff, I had a check for $125,000. It was the biggest check made out in my name that I had ever had. Nothing ever in my life would I've ever had a check even close to that. Oh my God, it was such a good feeling to have all that. Because I thought I was gonna die on that property. I thought I was gonna be referred to as the crazy lady with the dog kennel. And then they'd find me one day in my yard, keeled over dead. They'd have to dig a hole and put me in it and cover it up with a rock. But nope, that's not what happened. Nope, I moved into the city of Moose Jaw. I bought a house in there. I think I put $35,000 down on the place so that I could have a lower mortgage payment. At the end of the day, what I really think I should have done is just kept that fucking property that I built up from nothing. I closed the dog kennel because I was sick and tired of doing that shit. Fucking barking dogs and piss and shit and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I never got a moment's rest. It was fucking hell. But I could have paid the mortgage there just fine. It was my pride. I didn't want to shut my business. I wanted somebody else to take it over. I sold the place in November. The business closed in December because the lady who had leased it was a fucktard. I had people calling me, crying on the phone, wishing I hadn't sold the business. What happened? Why don't you come back? I would have been better off just staying there. I could have converted that barn into 2 apartments or whatever I wanted. I could have made enough money. I don't know why. I should have stayed there. It was a 4-bedroom house with 2 baths. two baths, so one full bath and a three-piece bath. Had a hot tub outside, a nice two-tiered composite deck. I would have liked to have built a garage attached to it. Then the people that bought it, they rented it to somebody until they figured out what they were doing with their house. So then they had the person that was leasing the business was somebody that I set up, and she ran it into the ground. And then the tenants moved into the house that I had completely renovated, like completely. And their kids were playing with matches downstairs and made a big fire, burnt the whole side of, like, melted the composite deck, burnt the side of the hot tub, destroyed the entire place really with the smoke damage, because I went to the property after that. Like, it was the saddest day of my life, honest to God. I had built this property up from nothing, and in less than a year, the business was done and the house was burnt. And so I drove in there knowing there was not a fucking person around. Used to be a thriving location, not a soul around. I walked to the back deck and went up onto the rippled deck that was melted from the fire that was burning in the room below it, and pushed open the kitchen door, or the back door to the kitchen. And I had ripped it, like it used to have, because it was a split side entry, and it used to have a wall where, and then the kitchen table would sit in front of this wall. Well, I knocked all of that shit out of there, and it was a nice wooden railing around the stairway going downstairs and up into the living room. And you could see right through from one end of the house to the other. It was fantastic. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was the best thing. It should have been the way that house had been built from the day it was conceived. And I did it. It was mine. It was my design. I built the bookcases in there and everything. And I opened that back door. I painted those cupboards white, and they were black. Black, and then where whoever had lived there had taken things off the wall after the fire, the sandy brown or hazy, whatever you want, taupe walls, it was all black. I just stood there and cried. I just cried and cried and cried. I know it wasn't mine anymore, but it was kind of like a legacy of mine, you know. Oh, who built this place? Who had this place? Yeah, Tammy Turner moved here. Yeah, no. My red hay wagon's still out front, though. Got that in Keeler, Saskatchewan, and took it home, paid $25 to the town of Keeler for the wagon, and took it home and refinished it. It's quite lovely. I loved living on the prairies. I thought it was quite grand. And the extreme weather, something to behold, that's for sure. If the wind's blowing, it's fucking blowing. If it's raining, it doesn't come straight down. That's for goddamn sure. It's sideways rain all the way. Sideways. Same as the snow. How many centimeters of snow did you get, Tim? I don't know, because I can still see the grass over here, but there's like about 4 feet of snow over there. Just depends on where the wind blew it. And then the next day it'd be like complete opposite. The wind blew it from over there to over there. Now I get grass over there and nothing over there. After I lived in that house for a bit, I rented the upstairs of the kennel where I used to live with my son to my friend Chad. Actually, he lived in my house with me at first, and then when I got a boyfriend and moved him in, then Chad went over to the kennel. And we were getting all kinds of notifications. It was summertime, all kinds of notifications that we were getting, like a major rain and wind, storm, thunder and lightning, potential funnel clouds and everything. And I was listening to the radio and I was quite freaked out by it. And so I called over to the kennel to talk to Chad, and I said, hey man, I think you need to come over here. We're just going to hide out in the basement and sleep down in the basement in case it gets too bad. Winds are picking up and stuff. And he was like, oh no, I think it's going to be okay. About to go out for a smoke, he said. and I'm going to check it out. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I stayed on the phone with him, and I heard him going down the kennel stairs, and then he was outside on the front deck. And I was standing in my front window, so say it's right here, which my front window is. The kennel would be over in this direction. And I was looking and he was on the deck, and I'm talking to him. I was like, there's some big black clouds coming from behind the kennel. And he was like, oh, yeah, really? I said, yeah, winds are just howling. I said, look at, like, you could see tumbleweeds, like, coming by. So they were blowing from the south, which was not the prevailing winds. They're usually from the north or northwest. Anyway, I said, Chad, you need to go around the kennel and look past the kennel fence, I said, at what's coming. Because all you could see was this big black cloud. It was just like looming. And it was coming quick, like you could see it. You could see it for miles, miles and miles. That's what it's like in Saskatchewan. You can see the weather coming for miles. And so he was speculative, and so he gets down off the deck and he walks to the side of the fence and he puts his head out to see. And his hat blows off and it goes, and his dog ran out and into the wind and got knocked half sideways. And so I'm laughing on the phone, and here he comes. He's running like a bat out of hell because the rain's coming. The rain is right there. It's like a big wall that's coming. He can see it and he can feel it. So he's sprinting across the yard to get into my place because, oh my God, it was brutal. We went right down into the basement. I could feel that house shaking. I could feel it. And at one point, we had gone upstairs to get a drink of something out of the kitchen fridge. And the front window, imagine if you're driving down the highway in a rainstorm with no windshield wipers. That's what the rain was like on the front window. You couldn't see out. And it was pushing so hard, and I hadn't had the windows replaced yet, that it pushed water into whatever crevice it could, and it leaked down all the way into the basement where the new windows were, and the new drywall and everything. Now, it didn't get... I put a bunch of towels there and stuff and soaked it out, but the basement wasn't finished at that time. The floor was down, and there was some furniture down there, so we all just kind of camped out. Carter, my son, slept. Oh, it's doggy snack time. That's what that's saying. Oh, you guys, you were sleeping. You were sleeping so hard. You didn't even know it was almost snack time, did ya? No, they didn't know it was snack time already. Oh, yeah, lucky dog. Here you go. Want snack time? Can you have that? Oh, yeah, we get some snack time going. We get snack time going. Yeah. That's all. Oh, I'm going to turn the heat up too. Oh, that's too high. Yeah, so, yeah. Anyway, I probably should end this on that note because I've been rambling on for quite some time. I like telling my stories. Got lots of them. But I think I'm going to have another bag of vape and watch a little idiot box and see what's going on in the world of Netflix or Prime. Because what else have I got to do? Tomorrow is Magic Mushroom Monday. Monday Magic Mushroom. Mushroom Magic Monday. Now, I'm not a magic mushroom person. Oh, shit. I'm supposed to... I've not really done them before. I did a whole thing about where I got them. I'm supposed to take pictures and send them to my girlfriend so she knows what to prepare for because she's going to be my partner in crime tomorrow. So I'm going to do that now. So keep fit and have fun. Don't take any wooden nickels. Don't eat yellow snow. Don't piss against the wind. That's all I know. Those are the only things you have to look out for, I guess. Catch you later.